Hey, what's up? When I first set out to make this pizza, I had a lot of questions. What's the right cheese blend? Do you need to cook this sauce? Can you make the thing that's gonna make George Costanza say, forget about it? I've made a lot of these pizzas and I've tried a lot of these moves and I think I've got something really special. So stick around, let me show you how to make one. Real quick, if you're new here, my name's Brian and I'm a chef in the real world. On this channel, I show you guys how to cook good food on the internet. Also, if you like this video, consider giving it a like, hit subscribe, and definitely hit that bell to turn on notifications. Okay, enough of that. Great New York pizza, of course, starts with the pizza dough. So the first step in perfect pizza dough starts 48 hours before we actually want to eat pizza. I'm gonna make a pre-ferment for this dough, and that's called a Poolish. You've seen me make this a bunch of times on this channel already. For that, we're gonna combine 50 grams of room temperature water, a small pinch of yeast, and 50 grams of all-purpose flour. I'm gonna stir all that up to combine, and it should look like jalapeno pancake batter. Once that's all stirred up, I'm gonna pop a lid on it and ferment it on the counter at room temperature for 18 to 24 hours. The next day, the Poolish is all gassed up. It smells super sweet and almost boozy. To make the pizza dough, we're gonna grab the food processor and into a separate container, we're gonna measure 180 grams of warm water, all of that right Poolish, and 5 grams of yeast. I'm gonna stir all that up to combine, and I'll mention at this point, if you haven't planned well and you don't have any right Poolish, that is not a sweat. I'm gonna post a second formula down below for a non-Poolish pizza dough. So once that's all stirred up, we're gonna set it aside, and into the jar of the food processor, we're gonna measure 315 grams of all-purpose flour, 8 grams of salt, and 10 grams of sugar. I'm gonna pop the lid on and start spinning all that dry stuff to mix it together, and then I'm gonna slowly stream in my wet ingredients. By the way, I've added 10 grams of olive oil into this wet mix when you guys weren't looking. I'm gonna spin all this up until it's well combined, and then we're gonna go for an additional 15 seconds past that, and there we go. This dough is fully combined here, but it still needs a little bit more strength built into it. So we're gonna flip it out onto the cutting board and give it some elbow grease to tighten things up. Total, it's probably about 30 to 40 of these nice rolls of the palm in the hands like this. This is gonna help build some of that signature chewy New York style crust. And in addition with the Poolish that we just made, we're gonna have a really brittle, crispy high end and a really tender but chewy low end. And there we go. After about 60 seconds of massaging this thing, it's looking good. I'm gonna tuck this into a ball shape, and then I'm gonna toss it into an oiled medium stainless steel bowl, wrap it with plastic, and let it ferment on the counter for 45 minutes. Most pizzerias are gonna throw the dough straight into the refrigerator after it's mixed, but for me, the quick little rise on the counter here gives us a more predictable, well-fermented dough that's gonna rise higher and have better texture for home baking. 45 minutes later, this dough's got a lot of life to it. It's grown a little bit, and it's ready to divide. I'm gonna flip it out onto my cutting board and divide it into two 300-gram balls. We're gonna throw it on the scale as well for good measure. Make sure we're going for that gold medal New York style pizza here, and we can't be sloppy. We're looking for 300 grams exactly. From here, we're gonna shape these chunks of dough into taut little round balls with a nice seam on the bottom. You really wanna make sure that the seam here is closed. Otherwise, we're gonna go make our New York style pies tomorrow, and there's gonna be thin spots and potentially rips in the dough, and that's gonna be a huge bummer. Ask me how I know that. Okay, once these are all balled up and sealed tight on the bottom, we're going to plop them onto a lightly oiled quarter sheet tray and then get a little oil on the top. This is going to prevent that plastic wrap from sticking. I'm going to throw this dough into the refrigerator now to slowly rise and get more flavorful overnight for about 24 hours. Next, I'm going to preheat a medium saute pan over medium heat while we consider what we're going to be doing with this pizza sauce. So the sauce part of this pizza was the most contentious part. I went to all my pizza boys, the guys who I learned how to make pizza from, who are still doing it at the pro level now, and they all said go raw. Don't cook your pizza sauce for New York style pizza. And I tried it that way. I made 2 batches of pizza with an uncooked sauce, and it just didn't really work out. It didn't remind me of the pizza I had when I was in New York as an 18-year-old, just kind of bumming around from slice shop to slice shop. So I went with a cooked sauce, the one that we're about to get into here, and I think it's what we need. It's got a really robust, concentrated flavor. It's got a little bit of inherent sweetness to it, and it's the right thickness for this pizza. So while that saute pan preheats, I'm gonna grab a 28-ounce can of nice whole peeled San Marzano tomatoes and my immersion blender. I'm gonna give these a spin, but I don't want them to be fully smooth. There needs to be some texture in this tomato sauce to commingle and grab onto that cheese to form the signature New York style nuclear orange thing, and I don't want a super smooth sauce for that. Next, I'm gonna peel and smash 2 whole cloves of garlic. Make sure sure to leave them chunky like this. And then I'm gonna head over to the saute pan and glug in 15 grams of olive oil and 15 grams of butter. As that melts, I'm gonna throw in the smashed garlics and let those gently sizzle and fry for about 3 minutes. Look, we're definitely trying to wake up the garlic flavor here and get a little color, but we gotta be careful. We definitely don't want any of that nasty burnt garlic flavor. That would be a failure. Once all this garlic flavor is bloomed into this buttery oil, we're gonna add the spun up San Marzano tomatoes, give things a stir, and bring it up to a simmer. Whole peeled tomatoes have a lot more water in them than just plain crushed tomatoes, so we need to cook this for a little bit longer and concentrate things a bit. And oh yes, I'm gonna add in a solid pinch of chili flake and dried oregano here as well. This is gonna make your house smell like the basement level slice shop of your dreams for sure. I'm gonna simmer this whole sauce for about 25 minutes or until the sauce is reduced by half. While that's cooking, I'm gonna get my cheeses set up. For that, I have 2 cheeses, full fat mozzarella and part skim mozzarella. Yeah! If you guys are wondering here where to find full fat mozzarella, by the way, someone told me that the deli case at the grocery store was the best place to go, and they were right. This is Boar's Head full fat Moz, and it tastes very, very robust. I'm gonna go ahead and grate both of these cheeses on the largest hold side of my box grater. I need about 200 grams of each cheese total, or roughly 1 loosely packed quart. To answer the question, I know you're thinking, why both full fat and part skim Moz, Bri? Good question. In my mind, when we're talking about a truly great New York style pizza, we're basically talking about a perfect cheese pizza. I think most places are judged on the merit of their cheese slice. All full fat Moz is too heavy. It makes an oily cheese pizza. All part skim is too bland. So of course the compromise of the two together gives us what I think is a proper New York cheese blend. There is, however, one more cheese that we're gonna be adding at the very, very end to make this thing absolutely nuts. But I'll get there in a second. Okay, it's been 30 minutes, so my pizza sauce has reduced by half, and when I drag my spatula through it, we can see a nice long trail. Now it's time to season this up. I'm gonna add 3 grams of salt and 5 grams of sugar. I'm gonna stir that up, give it a taste. Whew, that's hot, but it tastes good. Also, don't forget about those roasted garlic cloves in there real quick. Scoop those out. Those are not going to be super good on pizza. Next, we'll scoop this into a bowl and then throw it in the fridge overnight to chill with the cheese and the dough balls. Okay, now it's day 3, 48 hours since we started, and we're going to pull the pizza dough out of the fridge to come up to room temp. I'm going to preheat my oven to its highest setting, or 550 degrees, and I'm going to load in my very well broken in cheese covered pizza stone. As you can see, the pizza dough balls have grown by about 75%, and they look nice and buoyant and alive. To set up the pizza making station here, I've got my mozzarella blend, my pizza sauce. I've got some all-purpose flour here to keep things from sliding around. I've got my pizza peel, my dough card, and my dough. And oh yeah, a little bit of salt for the top of daddy's pizza. So now we're gonna shape the pizza, and this is actually the hard part. Properly tossing a pizza takes a lot of practice, but I can vouch that it's totally worth it, and it looks kind of good on a resume. I like to lightly flour the tops of the dough and then gently release the dough from the tray and gently flip that over onto a lightly floured cutting board. Now the exposed side is going to be facing up. I'm going to flour that as well. And then using the pads of your fingertips, you're going to lightly press the inside edge of the dough to slowly start to form the crust. You want to take your time and be patient. We're looking for a flat bottom here and a ring of gassy crust on the outside. Eventually, you're going to have a nice 8-inch round crust that looks just like this. From there, you're going to take your right hand, if you're a righty, and push the fingertips into the 1 o'clock position of the inside of that ring on the pie. You're going to pull that out with your other hand and then flip it over and repeat. Each time you flip that dough back, it should rotate 2 to 3 hours on the clock. Your dominant hand pinches the dough to the board while the other hand stretches it out and throws it back over your wrist. Once you've got about a 10-inch round, you're gonna flip it over your wrist and grab your pizza peel. Lightly flour that peel real quick and then gently drape the dough on the front half of it. From there, we're gonna spread roughly 200 grams of that pizza sauce, being careful to leave about a 1/2 inch of the crust exposed. The back of a spoon is probably the best tool for this job. Just be really careful here not to get any of that sauce over the edge. It's going to make getting the pizza off the peel and into the oven a huge bummer and probably impossible, so just be careful. Next, we're going to add the mozzarella blend. That's about 175 grams of that stuff, maybe 200 if you're feeling cheesy. And again, we're going about a 1/2 inch from edge to edge. I'm going to give that a little shimmy and a shake to make sure that we're not stuck. And okay, that looks good. But this pizza is too small. It's too small, dude. I've purposely done it this way though, so that the weight of all the toppings pin the dough to the board and we can stretch it out that last 20% without it snapping back. And there we go, it looks good. One last thing though, a secret little finishing move, if you will. Fresh mozzarella. Maybe not traditional, but the clean, milky sweetness is gonna be a perfect little contrast to this fatty, salty, drier cheese that's dominating this pizza. I'm gonna tear it up and crumble it all over, maybe about 3 tablespoons on the whole pie. After that, we're gonna salt the pizza with a strong pinch of kosher salt. And this is definitely a pro level move. Much needed, don't forget to salt the pizza. Now is the time where we load this pizza into the oven. To get it off the peel, all you need to do is just scoot this pizza about 2 inches onto the back of the stone and then gently pull the peel back towards you. The stone itself will have gripped the pizza and it's gonna pull it off the peel as you slide it back. This pizza cooks quite quickly. We're talking about 6 minutes total at 550 degrees. This is honestly one of the best pizzas you can make in your home oven. The temperature range here is very similar to a deck oven in a slice shop. I don't think your average New York style pizza place is really going much over 600 degrees. And here we go. After 6 minutes of baking, we have the classic, the legend New York style pizza. It's well browned, it's crispy, it's chewy, but it's still tender. It's got a brittle crust, and it's a very cooked, hard fried almost mozzarella with a nice hit of contrast from that fresh, milky, fresh mozzarella. It's salty, it's a little sweet. The tomato sauce is perfectly in balance and intertwined with that melted cheese. You get that orange layer of fried fat. And now, of course, we're gonna eat this thing. Before I get out of here, I just want to say a huge heartfelt thank you to everybody who supports this channel on Ko-fi. Your tips over there go directly into supporting this content, so thank you guys. As always, guys, thank you so much for your time and attention. Thank you for sticking around, and we'll see you next time. Hey, it's New York. F you, Boston Celtics.